The A-League men mid-season transfer window has officially closed. It is done, and we are going to go ahead and look at every club's moves over the past month. Obviously, plenty of clubs needing to strengthen for the remainder of the season, especially a lot of the clubs towards the bottom of the ladder. We'd love to get your thoughts on how you think your club has performed in this January transfer window. Some clubs pretty quiet, some clubs much more busy. Of course, it goes without saying we can still see signings happen. Some free agents could still join clubs across the A-League men's. But first of all, Adelaide United, no movement for the Reds aside from the re-signing of Jay Barnett, who is having a good season in midfield for the Reds. But no surprises there. They've been having a very, very good campaign, Adelaide United. Seemingly no gaps sort of in their side. They've been very, very good. Maybe they could have signed another defender. We know Jordan Elsie's been out with injury for some time now. Vreens and Kikianis have been doing a great job at centre-back. But same thing we can say for Auckland as well. Not a lot of movement there. Joey Champness, there was a mutual termination of his contract. So Marley Francois has joined the side. So sort of a straight swap there. One winger out, one winger in there for Auckland. Those two teams leading the way in the A-League men's ladder as we speak. Brisbane Roar, one of these teams who obviously are really struggling this year, and we have seen a bit of movement from them. First of all, I do want to talk about the outs because there's some interesting ones here. Obviously, Harry van der Sar, mutual termination. But Coletti departing, who wasn't playing too much of a role this season. Thomas Waddingham was obviously sort of one of the most high-profile departures from this past transfer window, joining Portsmouth in the English Championship. Really exciting move for a talented young Aussie striker who has a bright future ahead of him, enormous potential. A couple of wingers departing the club. Nacer Acosta is really disappointing that he just sort of struggled for injury and didn't quite get too much game time at Brisbane Roar this season. His A-League journey is cut short. And Alex Parsons, another interesting one. Parsons, not really getting a look in at Brisbane Roar. Obviously back at the side. He was at Sydney FC a couple of years ago. Alex Parsons, I remember when he sort of sprung onto the A-League scene at Brisbane a few years back, and he was fantastic. This left-footed winger who, scored some cracking goals and clearly had enormous potential. I still think he has a good career ahead of him, and I'm sure any other A-League club wouldn't mind picking up Alex Parsons. So we'll keep an eye on where he ends up. Scott Neville has retired as well, so another experienced player departing the club there in defence for Brisbane Roar. In terms of their ins, obviously Henry Hall returning from loan is a positive to have him back at the club, and he's already shown some bright sparks back at the club for the second half of the season. Nathan Amanatidis is a decent signing from Sydney FC. He just wasn't getting the game time at the Sky Blues. Austin Ludwig, another sort of defensive sort of cover, good to strengthen the back line there, especially with the departure of Neville. And then this was one of the few deadline day signings we did have. Asuma Abubakar. Interesting signing. I mean, he hasn't, from the looks of things, from my research, hasn't played too much football in the last couple of years. Striker, can also play as a winger. We'll see where exactly, Zankovic chooses to deploy him. But with the departure of Waddingham, you'd assume maybe he will play a centre-forward role for Brisbane Roar. And Abubakar, I mean, Roar fans will be hoping that he will bring the goals to Queensland. And they're going to need it, dude, if they are going to avoid the wooden spoon this year. I think there's a slim chance of Brisbane catching the top six at this stage, of course. So, Central Coast Mariners. Let's talk about my team, the Mariners. Not too much movement. I'm obviously stoked about the signing of Abdul Faisal. This is someone who I've talked about quite a lot. He made a really, really bright start at Perth Glory earlier on this season. I remember his debut in the Australia Cup playoff round, and he looked so bright, man. Really exciting young winger, and he's shown some promising signs already for the Mariners. Already played a few games for them. Logan Sandbrook signed on a scholarship contract, another teenager joining the club. Sabit Nyor out on loan to Heidelberg United, I think is a smart move for all parties involved. He, I don't want to say he was struggling. Like, he showed a couple decent moments. He scored away to Adelaide early on in the season. But you just feel like he was maybe down the pecking order when it comes to wingers, especially with the signing of Faisal. And you look at those wide positions with Thea Harris, with Docker there as well. And now Faisal, there's a lot of competition there with DiPizio returning from injury. That maybe just wasn't going to be enough, enough minutes, I guess, for someone like Sabit Nyor, who I still think maybe has a bright future ahead at Central Coast Mariners. But I think the decision to loan him out to Heidelberg United is a smart move for the remainder of the season. Macarthur FC, another team who we've seen some movement at and some big outs Some really, really big outs. And I do want to highlight Jed Drew. I think that's the biggest one because he was having an unreal season. I mean, he was in the conversation for, team of the season so far, really. The guy was scoring goals, was assisting goals, was having easily the best A-League season he's had so far. And, well deserved for him to secure a move over to Europe. The same with Ollie Jones, who had been playing well in defence. Ari FPO, we know scored that tremendous bicycle kick against Sydney FC. He's moved to the MLS, and Dino Oslanic has also departed the club. The ins here for Macarthur FC, Enrique Oliveira, brother of Bernardo Oliveira, I believe. Peter McCrillos has joined the club to strengthen the midfield. Saif Eddine Cowie looks like a really decent signing, plenty of experience in France, and apparently knows Valère Germain as well. And Kevin Bolly, 33-year-old defender from Ivory Coast, has experience playing at a variety of clubs, especially across Europe. Again, a smart signing considering you do have those defensive departures. So still overall, I think, Milos Jojowski's done a good job of managing some of these big name departures, and brought in some decent options who look like they're going to bring some good experience and quality to the side. Melbourne City, no movement from them aside from the retirement of Jamie Young, legend of the A-League, man. On his day, one of the best goalkeepers in the league. He was part of the Western United side who won the championship back in 2022. So we wish Jamie Young all the best. I believe he is playing in MPL Victoria now, but no other moves at City. Melbourne Victory. As we know, Mitch Langerak was joining the club. Jason Guerrier, the Socceroo, securing a move overseas, and that brought the arrival of Lachlan Jackson, which I think is a really smart signing from Melbourne Victory. This is a guy who was formerly Brisbane Roar and Newcastle Jets, was playing some football over in Asia as well. Returning to the A-League. Good signing, man. Look, I don't know whether he comes straight into the starting lineup with Hamill and Miranda in there, but important cover because with that departure of Guerrier, we've seen Rawlins, slotting the right back. They needed to sign another centre back. They've got a decent guy there in Lachlan Jackson. Newcastle Jets have brought in Kokta Mizunuma, who has shown some really bright sparks in his first few appearances for the Jets. And Charles Momboy is a player who I've always rated pretty highly. I was surprised that Macarthur FC let him go a couple of years back. And Nathan Grimaldi has departed the club to join a club in the NPL New South Wales as well. Perth Glory, again, the other strugglers this season in the A-League. There was a lot of talk, around the club, and David Zrilic, I think himself, said that they were going to be making moves in January. They have made the moves. We will talk about the outs first of all. Amini, we haven't seen him at all this season. It obviously didn't work out for Caicedo and Kunga, unfortunately for those two. Luke Bodnar, Jacob Muir, Jared Carluccio, and Abdul Faisal all leaving the club. And the arrivals, the arrivals are interesting. So we've got Tommy Michela. He arrived a couple of months ago. He was a free agent, I believe, and a good signing for Perth Glory just to help solidify things a little bit at the back. Lockie Ways looks like a good signing, man. And he's a player who obviously has a lot of A-League experience, formerly of Mariners, of Melbourne City, of Western United. So I think that's a decent pickup for Glory. A couple of players from Japan, really interesting signings. Misao here and Okamoto. Misao's made a couple of appearances. Keen to see what Okamoto brings as well to this Glory team. I think the signing of Patrick Wood on loan from Sydney FC is an interesting one. We've seen him. He's been starting for games for Glory alongside Adam Taggart. So going for sort of the double striker setup there at Glory is David Zrilic. And Tas Motokurtis, former Western Sydney Wanderers centre-back, joins the club as well. So is it enough to try and lift Perth Glory up the table? I'm not, confident enough to say yes, but it feels like that they might have more of a competitive team now, I think, overall, with some of those decent signings. Let's talk about Sydney FC next. In terms of their outs, a couple strikers leaving on loan in Mitch Glasson and Patrick Wood. Smart moves from Sydney FC, and for those players, just weren't getting game time, men, or limited minutes off the bench. So both those players leaving on loan. Manatidis, again, not getting minutes at Sydney, so he's joined Brisbane. And Hayden Matthews, again, the other big high-profile departure from the A-League. This guy has been obviously very, very good over the past 12 months for Sydney FC and has secured a move to Portsmouth. Again, another player, another Aussie joining Portsmouth. And we wish Hayden Matthews all the best. Of course, a Socceroo now, Hayden Matthews. A couple more clubs left. Wellington Phoenix announced the deadline day signing of Francisco Chico Geraldes, joining on loan from Johor Darul Tazim from Malaysia. Coincidentally, the club that Central Coast Mariners recently played in the Asian Champions League Elite. Mutual termination of David Ball's contract. He was at Phoenix for the last few years, and departures for Oscar Van Hattem and Mo Altai. And Mo Altai has joined his former club, Western Sydney Wanderers, alongside Alex Gersbach. Good to see him back in the A-League. Excited to see what he brings. Jared Carluccio returns to Wanderers as well. Very versatile player. And I think the signing of Josh Laws this in the past week is a really smart signing once again from Wanderers. Again, we know about the injuries that they've had at the back. Jonte Wook has been out for some time now. More cover in defence. Beedling and Holiday mutually terminated their contracts with the club, and Dylan Shikluna, who's been having a great season up until that really unfortunate injury, he has re-signed at the club. West United have been having a very good season, sort of, performing sort of above expectations, I think is fair to say. Alex Nassi promoted to a scholarship contract. The young goalkeeper Tommy Hewitt-Bell has moved overseas, and re-signings for Jordan Mountain and Matt Sutton, who are really having breakout seasons this year at the Green and Black. So those are all the moves from the January transfer window. Let me know how you're feeling about your club's movement in the mid-season transfer window. I would love to hear from you guys, and hit the like button to support the channel. And if you're keen to see more A-League content like this, hit subscribe, man. Stick around. We're trying to build a community of like-minded football fans here that are passionate about growing the game in Australia. My name's Lockie. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.